There's a teacher in you. Hi, John. Good evening, everyone. I think we can hear each other now. I'm very happy to welcome you to our annual Groveland Candidates Night, sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Greater Haverhill. My name is Ruth Race of 3 Nichols Way, and my cohort here is Valerie Osborne. So we welcome you on this finally pleasant evening. I checked my notes and I found that the last 2 years we've come in rain and miserable evening conditions. We didn't have it tonight, but you've always come before when it was raining or not.
That's
and thank
right.
you again for being here tonight.
Audience.
I want to introduce to you our moderator for the evening. Once again, Stephanie Trainer has come from North Andover League to moderate our meeting. She will talk to you in a few minutes about how the meeting will be run, and so we're very grateful that she can be here. Thank you all for coming, and thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Thank you, Ruth and Valerie. And thank you to the Greater Haverhill League for inviting me to serve as your moderator this evening. The League is a nonpartisan national organization that encourages informed and active participation in government. We hope that over the course of tonight's program, you'll learn more about what the candidates running for local office hope to do for Groveland. Groveland's local elections will be held on Monday, May 6th. Voters will be choosing several candidates, many of whom are in uncontested races. The contested races are for Board of Selectmen, with 2 candidates running for 1 3-year seat and 2 candidates running for 1 1-year seat. The other contested race is for Town Clerk, with 5 candidates running for 1 3-year seat. There are also 3 questions on the ballot. Question 1 asks for a Proposition 2.5 debt exclusion for the costs of a new middle high school to be located at 24 Main Street in West Newbury. Question 2 asks whether the town should adopt bylaws prohibiting recreational or non-medical marijuana establishments from operating in town. And question 3 asks whether the town should have an elected or appointed tree warden. So I'll start by explaining the procedures. For the audience, if you wouldn't mind to silence your cell phones and other beeping devices. This program is being taped for rebroadcast on local cable channel 9. Oh, and live. So we're live tonight. Oh. So no campaign materials allowed in the room. I don't think that's an issue. We ask that you please treat all candidates fairly throughout the forum and hold your applause until everyone has finished their closing statements during that segment. So when it's time to ask questions, I'll call on you, raise your hand, and then when you do stand to ask your question, if you could state your name and address and speak loudly enough for all of us to hear you. Your questions should apply to issues related to the particular office, and if your question is directed at a particular candidate, I'm going to give all the candidates an opportunity to respond. If you do need to leave, we ask that you do so quietly, and we request that only the press take photos or record portions of the event. So for the candidates, for the uncontested races, if you're here, I'm going to go down the ballot, and you are welcome to make a 2-minute statement from your seat. And then I'll call up the candidates in the contested races. They will be seated left to right in alphabetical order, and they'll have 2 minutes for an opening statement, which will be made in alphabetical order. These will be followed by the audience questions, and answers can be up to 2 minutes in length. I will rotate the order that I ask the questions of the candidates so that everyone has an equal chance of being first and last. And then they'll have 2 minutes for a closing statement, and those will be given in reverse order. The timekeepers are in the front row. If you could raise your hands, thank you. And when there's half a minute left on your speaking time, you'll see a 30-second card. We actually didn't. And at 15 seconds, you'll see a card that says 15 seconds. And we ask that you finish your sentence and wrap up when you see the stop card. If you continue speaking well after the stop card, I'll say thank you and move on to the next candidate. So I'm going to begin with the candidates who are here for uncontested races. So I'm actually going down the ballot. I think some candidates are definitely not here. So William H. Dark is running for assessor, and it's my understanding that he's not with us this evening. The Board of Health, there's no one running. The Cemetery Commission, Raymond S. Dower III. Is Mr. Dower with us? Oh, very good, Mr. Dower. So you'll have 2 minutes for a statement, please.
My name is, you'll see on the ballot, Raymond Dower, but
Oh.
most everybody knows me as Rock.
Actually, hold 1 sec. He's bringing you the mic.
Actually, people can't hear me.
We can. It's for the TV audience. It's for the television audience, yeah.
Thank you. My name is Rock Dower, but on the ballot, they'll use my official name as Raymond Dower. I'm the chairman of the Board of Cemetery Commissioners. We're doing a lot with the cemetery over the past year, and hopefully we'll get the monies we need throughout the year to do as well as we've done. It's been a long process. As you know, the people that have been up in the cemetery, nobody in their right mind would build a cemetery on a cliff or anything like that. But it's been going very well. And if anybody has any quick questions to ask me about what we do and how we do it, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
So does anyone have any? Okay. Well,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. So we'll move along to Housing Authority. Elizabeth A. Gorski is running for a 5-year term, and it's my understanding that she is not with A. Library Trustee, J.A. Collins is not with us. All right. Barbara A. Galvin. Is Barbara here? No? Okay. And Kathleen M. Prunier. So, all right. So none of them are here. For Light Commission, we have Kermit K. Cross. Is Mr. Cross in the audience? I guess not. Okay. Mr. Dark is also running for moderator. He's not with us. School Committee, Richard C. Hodges. Very good, Mr. Hodges. You have 2 minutes. Oh, that's right. He'll give it to you. Thank you for waiting for it.
A 2-hour presentation that I cut down to 10 minutes. Now it's down to 2. So here we go. I have 45 years experience as an educator, both as 27 years as a teacher and 13 years as an assistant principal and finally as a principal. So what's happening with Pentucket Regional District? Fortunately, everyday math is behind us. You may remember me saying a couple of years ago, 479 times 68 takes up a whole page of paper with lattice math. Even my granddaughter figured out, my wife was helping her one night, and she said, "Sweetheart, what are you working on?" And she said, "Well, this one," and it was 8 plus 7. And she goes, "Grandma, you can't say that. You got to take 2 away from the 7 and give it to the 8. And make it 10 plus 5. And she goes, "Grammy, why can't I just say 8 plus 7 equals 15? Well, anyways, that's gone. And we're very thankful for our new administrators. For the first time in probably 3 decades, all elementary schools have the same curriculum. I continue to be a little cynical about MCAS. It never helped me with my students in terms of finding out where their basic skill levels were. We have 2 new educational leaders, Superintendent Dr. Justin Bartholomew, and he actually was my choice 6 years ago when I was on the selection committee. I needed 6 years to be right. And we also have Brent Conway. Now, I'm also very interested in how we spend tax dollars. We dropped a $10,000 program that actually was a Marxist curriculum that almost 1,300 schools operate in. We got rid of that. And we've also dropped from 21 buses to 18 because on a certain day I saw we got stopped. There were 7 buses coming out. The first one was 2 kids. Second one was 2 kids. Third one was 4 kids. There was no buses out of the 7 that were... Well, it's been nice talking with you. I appreciate your vote, and may the force be with you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. So the first two candidates I'll be calling up are running for one-year seat on the Board of Selectmen. So that would be Kathleen Castronellis and Daniel McDonald. Oh, is Mr. McDonald not here? Oh, all right. Okay.
Do you want me to go with the others?
Actually, that's probably what we ought to do, is have her go with the other candidates, because Mr. McDonald is not here. Right. So, yes, so rather than, yes, that would make sense. Okay, so, all right. So then I'm going to call up the next two candidates for running for the Board of Selectmen, and they're running for 1 3-year seat on the board. So that would be incumbent William G. O'Neill and candidate Deborah J. Young. So the way you can be seated, actually, you'll be in the first chair, and then Mr. Young, you'll be in the
Miss Young.
Ms. Young.
I'm not
I'm
Mr.
so
yet.
sorry. I apologize. I have my glasses on. Very good.
yet.
And you'll be to her.
Do you want us to go all the way down that way?
I think it's fine if you want. You could
enough?
certainly come in one if you would like. Sorry.
You're not going to call me Mr. again, are you?
I will not do that. I promise,
You're supposed to be, I'm on
Ms. Young.
alphabetical.
So one of the things that you'll need to be mindful for the audience is that the microphones do need to be right up like where mine is, right close to you.
I have a big voice, I don't need a microphone.
It's for the TV audience?
Just being funny.
Okay. All right. So we're just mixing it up a little bit here, but this way all the candidates can answer the questions. And I do want to indicate the timekeepers actually will show you a 1-minute card as well. So you'll have a 1 minute, a 30-second, a 15, and a stop. So I hadn't made that clear. All right. So we've got, so each of you has 2 minutes for an opening statement, and we'll start with Ms. Castronellis. You have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Good evening to all, and thank you for coming. Also, thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this event. My name is Kathleen Castronellis, and I am running for a seat on the Board of Selectmen. I am running because I care deeply about this community and would like the opportunity to give back to a community that has given much to my family. For the last 3 years, I've been on the Finance Board chairing it. It's a very technical and financial responsibility, and I have a skill set that is well suited for it. My husband Mike and I have lived in Groveland for 30 years. We raised our children here, Jackie, Mike, and Andy. This is our home. All of our children went to Pentucket schools, and I thank the Pentucket administrators and teachers who prepared them so well for their lives. My husband Michael retired from the fire department as deputy chief after 25 years, and during all this time, I've served about 14 years on the finance board, on and off. Our town finances are in excellent shape, and our taxes provide a good value for the quality of life in our town. However, there is much work to be done, and it will require a lot of skill. I am dedicated, hardworking, trustworthy, and transparent. If elected, I will lead by example. Our town is beautiful, and I will work to preserve it. We are facing growing pains and an aging infrastructure. We need to ensure that while we make decisions for the present, we are planning for the future. In closing, a quote that I'll improvise on. It is not the critic who counts. The credit belongs to the man or woman who is actually in the arena. My name is Kathleen Castronellis, and I'm running for the Board of Selectmen. Thank you.
Thank you. So I will ask you to hold your applause to the very end. So, Mr. O'Neill.
Hi,
2
thank
minutes.
you. My name is Bill O'Neill, running for 2 minutes, running for re-election for Selectmen. I don't have a prepared statement. I think a lot of you know me. I think I've done a lot for the town. I think I've done some positive things. And I'd like to continue in that course of action, to continue to do some positive things for the town. That's about it. I'm not a lot on words, some more on action. So with that, I'll save some time and you from hearing all the other details and thank you for allowing me to the opportunity to speak to all you folks today, and thank you for coming.
Thank you. And Ms. Young.
Oh, thank you. My name is Deborah Young. I grew up in the city of Salem. For the past 20 years, my husband and I, along with my 2 daughters, moved into one of the mill houses in South Groveland, at the corner and center on Washington Street. Groveland's first impression of me wasn't good, I'll tell you. I was so wrapped up in my life at the time. My girls were young and in school. I was working 40 hours a week. I was going to college at night. And in my spare time, I was working on my property. Needless to say, I was soon called the crazy woman on the corner. I am not crazy. I spent 10 years on the Zoning Board of Appeals. My background is very extensive. I started out as a floral designer and greenhouse manager and taught at Essex Aggie for the horticulture department for a few years. I've worked as an operations manager for several gas stations. I've been an office manager, payroll specialist, and bookkeeper for several small businesses and still do part-time. I am a certified medical clerk and have worked in the medical field at Salem Hospital and also for a company that invents medical devices. I worked for quite a while for the Haverhill YWCA. My official title was office manager, but my position quickly expanded in helping the financial director with payroll, and I did general building maintenance. Also played a key role in reopening the women's room on the 2nd floor to house women in need, and was responsible for taking care of the residents. I have taken care of terminally ill cancer patients, many of them, and spent the past 18 years being a general contractor and interior designer. As many people know, there are a few people in town, a certain percentage that pay attention. When that percentage starts turning out what's going on, we're in trouble. When you have leaders shutting you out of the conversation, using your workers and your volunteers in town are being disrespected, it's time for this good community to stand up and to stop shutting down. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll move on to audience questions. And Ms. Young, you will actually answer the first question. Well, you'll answer first. So I'll ask for questions from the audience. Does anyone have a question? Very good. Okay. And so he's going to bring you the microphone, and if you want to stand and state your name and address. Thank you.
Mike Dempsey, 33 Uptack Road. Tell us what you'll do to protect the environment of Groveland and promote good health for all our citizens as selectmen.
Ms. Young, this goes to you first.
Yes, well, I think Groveland does an excellent job at protecting the environment. I was on the Zoning Board of Appeals to help save our aquifer. That was very important for me. The money spent on that was exorbitant, but at least we saved our water. And you know, we can't live without water. I would like to see, and the Board of Selectmen has talked about, maybe selling a front piece of land for businesses. But I think our environment is very well protected, our water, our conservation. I think we're pretty good like that at town. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. O'Neill.
Well, I must say, with folks like you, Mr. Dempsey, I think our town is very well protected as far as conservation goes. I'm also pleased to announce that our great town planner got us secured us a grant to study climate change preparedness in the town, which will also help us in the future. I'm a big proponent of saving the environment wherever we can. I have small children, I have grandchildren. It's very important to me to pass along a planet that's actually usable to them. We shouldn't waste our resources, and we shouldn't pass along a dirty planet to our children. I don't think that's what our parents had planned on to pass on to us, and that wouldn't be my goal to pass on to my children, my grandchildren, or your children, your grandchildren. So protecting the environment is very important to me. Clean water is essential, as well as the clean air and clean land. It's all vital to where our children play, where we garden, where we live. So it's always an important issue to me and always paramount on my priority list.
Thank you. Ms. Castronellis.
Yes, I think we have a beautiful town, but we do have a town with an aging infrastructure. We know that the Water and Sewer Department is working diligently on replacing pipes, and we've seen the effect on the water supply of our aging pipes. We also should keep in mind that recycling is now becoming a bit of an issue globally, and we should be aware of that we can't keep throwing things into landfills and things like that. It won't work. And we also just need to keep in mind that every building we have is old. The part of Bagnell that wasn't replaced is old. We need to make sure that the water coming out of the water fountains within Bagnell is good and is okay. And if not, we need to change things in there. We need to look at preserving our trails and the open space that we've built. I mean, there's a group of fourth graders working on it. It'd be nice maybe to have an ad hoc environmental committee in town that comes up with ideas and themes that we can do as far as helping to keep us from throwing trash on the side of the road and things like that. We really do have a beautiful town, but we do need to work to keep it that way. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Mr. McDonald has joined us.
Sorry I'm late to the party.
And so the question, actually, if I might, it was about what you plan to do to protect the environment in Groveland, is that? And promote the health of our citizens. So you have 2 minutes.
Microphone on?
Yes. So just speak close to the mic because
Well,
it's for
I
the
think
TV.
we have a Conservation Commission intact, and, you know, Mike Dempsey's done a great job with that, and I've supported Mike in a lot of things he's done. Questioned others, you know, like the Eagle Scout project down there along the Johnson's Pond, you know. Some of those were battles in the past. But, you know, we need a strong Conservation Commission that we support. We shouldn't defer and delegate anything to the state on Beacon Hill with the DEP, because I don't necessarily think that Beacon Hill has Groveland, you know, first and foremost in his heart in terms of protecting our environment. I can't say that they don't. But if you keep things local and close to your chest, I think you're going to get better results. So we need to support our Conservation Commission and protected our environment, protected turtles. You know, I've been a critic of coyotes in town, and you may be pro-coyotes, but coyotes are predators that eat endangered species. They eat the turtles. They don't have any other, you know, predators other than hunters, and we don't have enough hunters in town. So I think we need a coyote management program. It ought to be looked at, not necessarily to eradicate them, but to manage them, because otherwise the turtles that we hold dear to our hearts are going to disappear because not only lack of habitat, which is number one reason for endangered species and threatened species, but also predation. Predation's number 2 on the list from what my research has told me, and I have read up on the subject. So, you know, we need clean water. You know, the town bought that land over there on Center Street. I was opposed to the price of it. Question the wisdom of some of it, but at the end of the day, the town did that. It is what it is, and we continue to safeguard the property we have and to use it properly.
Thank you. Okay. Yes, so,
Point of order, Madam Chairperson. Mitchell
Yes.
Croner, 3 Cannon Hill Road Extension.
yes.
Now that Mr. McDonald is here, I think it's very will be very confusing for the viewers.
yes.
I think you should go back to your original plan and have the 2 candidates for the 1-year term and the 2 candidates for the
For the-
3-year term.
okay.
So it'll be
Well-
fairer to the candidates and
Right,
fairer for
right.
the viewers.
Yes, so actually, I do want to,
Well, Dan and I could just move down here.
okay.
And we could have a separation
All
of
righty.
state.
So the original plan was to do it that way, and so,
very flexible.
so actually then, so what I'm going to ask, and I apologize for this, but the original plan was for Mr. McDonald and Ms. Castronellis to be up together, since they're running for the 1-year term. So then if Ms. Young and Mr. O'Neill don't mind, and then you'll have your segment.
Okay.
We'll, okay. So,
I throw a monkey wrench in everything, you know?
So,
Nice to see you, Dan.
Nice to see you.
yes, so I think we can, okay. So now we have the two candidates running for one-year seat on the Board of Selectmen. And Mr. McDonald, I guess this is crazy, but you have 2 minutes for an opening statement.
Opening statement, I'm running for the Board of Selectmen again. I was on the Board of Selectmen a few years ago. Some of you remember, some of you don't remember me. My name's Daniel MacDonald. I moved here in 2005 with my wife, 2 cats, a dog. My triplets, who were 1 year old at the time, they're now 14 years old. They attend the middle school in the 8th grade. They're on their way to D.C. right now in New Jersey having dinner. So, I moved here to raise my family. So far, so good. I've had some, I'm a huge fan of Groveland. I'm also a critic. So some people will hear the criticism and not hear the praise. But, just like I am with my kid on a Little League field, I'm his biggest fan and I'm his biggest critic. You got to do things right or you hear about it. So I've been critical of some things in the past, got me in trouble politically, but, I stick by my guns. I believe in what I say. Sometimes, my rhetoric's a little bit heavy, if you know me. But anybody who knows me knows I have my heart in the right place. I believe in civic pride. I believe in setting the example. I care about the town. I care about the taxpayers. I'm a conservative by nature. I'm a registered Republican, whether you care about that. It's not a national election, but, if you have a bend towards tax and spend, then that's not me. If you're, hard left, that's not me. I consider myself a center, but, a little bit leaning towards fiscal conservative. If we don't need it, don't buy it. If you can afford it, it's a luxury. And maybe you will buy it, but there's a lot of people in town on a fixed date about me, myself, and I. I practice law. I can always work a few extra hours, do another closing, divorce another person, do another tax return. I can raise another $1,000 to pay a real estate tax bill. I recognize with my clients and talking to people that not everybody can afford that. You can't give up a Social Security check because there isn't a 13th Social Security check. So I care about it's important to me. I'm running for Board of Selectmen.
Thank you very much. Okay. So now we'll move on to audience questions for these two candidates running for a one-year term. So are there any other questions? Are there questions? Very good. So he'll just bring you the microphone. We're trying to capture that for the live audience at home, the TV
Hi,
audience.
my name's Jacqueline Travers. I'm at 68 Center Street. As the town's growing, there's a lot of new families moving in. I moved in 2015, and I have a husband and young children. What are your plans for the future for the younger side of Groveland, for the people with really young children and with the schools and everything like that?
So you'll have 2 minutes to answer, and actually, Mr. McDonald, you're up first.
Again, twice. I have first-hand knowledge or second-hand, however you look at it, with my children having been in the school department since early on, preschool and on. When I was on the Board of Selectmen before, I fought hard to get those funds. It was a battle. There was opposition at this table, on this end of the table, frustrating at times, but I fought hard to get the Bagnell Elementary School money. I didn't plant the grass. I take no credit for the landscape, and I give Bill Dunn a lot of credit for that, but I fought hard for the $6,000 or so to get that project done. They called it planting grass on the moon, and we planted grass on the moon. When I was on the Board of Selectmen, made sure that the cameras were turned on and connected with the police department. Can't get into the details on that. Got the $35,000. I don't take credit for it because I'm sitting next to 4 other people, and those people cared about those things too. But when I'm sitting at this table, I push for issues that matter to me. I care about the school system. I think I have a record for that. I have a vested interest in it. You heard me again. Biggest fan, biggest critic. I'm a big critic of the MCAS scores in this town. I care about standardized testing. I think a huge factor in what college a child gets into down the road has to do with SAT scores. I hear the other sides of the argument too on education, and well, it matters more that your children's learning and they're learning the proper things, and it's not just taking the test. Teach to the test. You have to teach to some tests. Mathematics is important. It's procedural. It's methodical. If you can't follow directions, there's a lot of things you're going to have problems with in life. So the other thing I've been criticized about, and again, I come across as hard on schools, but I have high standards on education for my kids. I push my kids. I really do. So if I push the school department to straighten things out, that's important. My kids don't have math books. Last year I ran for school committee, lost, okay? I got smoked. Okay, I brought an old 1990-something book here with missing a cover from the World Trade Center. My kids don't have books this year. I said, what do you got? They said, we got handouts. I said, go hit the handouts. I mean, it shouldn't be that way. We need books
Okay.
in town. So I
Thank
push
you.
for those things.
Thank you. Thank you
Okay.
very much. Thank you. And Ms. Castronellis.
Thank you. Well, long time ago, I was in your shoes. We moved here when we had one small child and had the next two children. So I care deeply about our schools and our community, and that every child that is in Groveland has the same opportunities that my three children enjoy, to go to a beautiful school, choose their future, and go out there and do what they want. And so I would work really hard to make sure that we were spending our tax dollars wisely so we can afford to keep all of our services up to par and doing what they should do. That includes our Bagnell. And one of the things we're starting this year, you'll see at the annual town meeting, is to put some money into the infrastructure of Bagnell, because the older section of Bagnell needs work and it's been neglected, and we are going to start taking care of that. And as a select person, I would make sure that that continues and that we continue to take care of that building so that it is a safe, beautiful school for all children to attend. We also have a great recreation program. We're fixing the River Pines up. It's going to be a premier recreation area. Washington Park has seen improvements. It's just a wonderful place for your children to grow up in. I think you'll learn to love it. Thank you.
Thank you. So any other questions from the audience? So no? No other questions for the two candidates? Okay. All right then, so I guess we'll move on to closing statements. And Mr. Mr. McDonald, you're up.
So quick.
You came late, that's what happened.
What I said in my opening statement. I'll just add to it. I'll be redundant. Listen, I want to be on the Board of Selectmen again, scrutinize the budget, do what I do, I look at things, I read, I try to do my homework. We need to keep seniors in town. If we keep escalating our costs, we're going to run people on fixed income out of town. You'll change the dynamics. So if you run people out of town that are on fixed income, then you basically open the door for people with children to come in. Well, I'm not against children to come into town either. That'd be a hypocrite. I mean, I got triplets. I mean, I'm part of the burden on the tax base, but I pay plenty of taxes, and so does my wife, who's a nurse practitioner. So we pay our fair share, and someday when we're retired, we're going to continue to pay real estate taxes. But if you force people out of town on budget increases every single year, you're going to get more kids in town, more yellow buses in front of the house. We don't have a business district in town, to any, sizable extent to put a dent in it. There's a bedroom community, so we need a demographic base in town that's across all age groups, all demographics, so this town will fail financially. So we have to be cognizant of that when we build new schools or we don't build new schools, or if we buy something or we don't buy something. You're hurting people every time you do that, and you benefit some people from that as well. So we need to weigh those benefits and burdens, and we need to weigh them carefully. It just can't be all about me, myself, and I. So, that's how I look at it. If we need it, we'll take a hard look at it. Sometimes you have to, belly up and just, you got to pay. Other times it's like, it's a luxury item and you're going to hurt some other people. So I'm aware of that, and anybody who knows me, I'm conservative. I'm tight with a buck when I need to be, and I bring that to the table.
Thank you. Ms. Castronellis.
Thank you. A little bit about myself. I have a bachelor's in economics and a master's in secondary education. I'm currently employed at Whittier Votech as a high school math teacher, a job which I love. My skill set will enable me to represent you well. I know how to look at a budget and make sure that all the dollars in it are being spent wisely. I also understand that facing an override to build a new school will put pressure on taxes. There are ways that we can work hard in this town to soften that blow, but it will have to come from the head of the house, the Board of Selectmen. We have built up our stabilization account to a little over $1 million. We are certifying free cash of over $500,000 a year. It is possible, continuing to do that for the next few years, that as the building project, if it's approved, goes forward, we can use some of those funds to lower the tax rate. We also have a tax work-off program for those over, I think it's 65, and we've taken all of the restrictions that we can out of it. I'd love to see more of our retired citizens working in our town buildings. They're some of the most educated, intelligent people I know, and I think it would be great to have them in there here helping out. It would be a win for us, and they would get a tax benefit, but we'd be the big winners to get them to help us out. So those are some of my thoughts. I'm a person. I treat everybody with courtesy, and I treat everybody fairly. I will not yell at people that come before me when I'm on the Board of Selectmen, nor will I allow the other members of the board to do that while I'm sitting there. I will treat people with civility and courtesy, whether I agree with them or not. Everybody has a right to their opinion, and I want to hear all of the opinions if I'm elected. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. So now I will call up the two candidates running for one 3-year seat on the Board of Selectmen. That would be incumbent Mr. William O'Neill and Deborah J. Young. So thank you for being good sports about all of that. So I think we probably ought to just redo the opening statements because we're doing this as 2 segments.
You already told me I had 2 minutes, and I cut my 3-minute statement down. I'd be confused.
Oh, are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, I could probably say something else, but yeah.
Okay, so would you, I'm happy to offer you an opening statement if you'd like to take one.
Okay, we
So,
often...
Mr. O'Neill.
We seldom get a redo in life, so I guess I'll take it.
Okay.
Again, my name is Bill O'Neill. Most of you know me. I've been here almost 20 years now. My wife and I chose this community for its quality of life. We didn't expect the other 2 children we had, but God, has his own plans. And now we're raising, also going through the Bagnell and the Pentucket Regional School District. Groveland has become a special place to me and to us and our family. It's a place that when you get here, you like it. And after you get to know the people, you start to love it. And after you start to love it, you start to say, what can I do to make it better? And after you start making it better, you say, what can I do to keep this going? How can I pass the baton on? Who's the next generation to come up and help out? And that's what I'm all about. I not a lot on words. I'm usually more on action. Let's roll up our sleeves. Talk is cheap. Complaining doesn't really get us anywhere. What can we do to solve problems and not be part of the problem, but part of the solution? That's what I'm about. I think a lot of you know that from the 3 years I've spent on the board, from the time I've spent in the athletic programs in the town and youth sports. It's what I'm about. It's I'm not going to change. What you see is what you get. It's who I am. It's my DNA. Thank you. I appreciate the 3 years you've given me, and I hope you give me another 3 years to continue the positive things I believe I've done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Ms. Young.
Okay. This will be shorter because I already went through my background. But what's important to me is the people in town. That's what I love in Groveland. The people in town have been so good to me. I've never met a bunch of nice people. I have to be honest with you. I'd like to tell you a little story that happened last summer in front of my house, which I told you I live on the corner center in Washington. We had a gentleman and his wife in a big truck, and they broke down right in the middle of the square there, right smack in the middle. I don't think it was 30 seconds. I came out, my neighbor across the street came out, my other neighbor across the street came out, bless you. And we were all out there asking if we can lend a hand, did he need a phone? And then 3 young men, and I say 3 young men because these boys were 10 years old. And they came over and, can we help you, sir? Can we help you? Well, they all got together in the back with one of my other neighbors, and they pushed the guy off to the middle of the road. Needless to say, he was stuck there for about 20 minutes. But I'll tell you, I had never been so proud. That's the kind of youth we have in this town. It was a beautiful thing, 10 years old. And the guy said as he left, and he was there for quite a while, he said, I'll tell you, I've never been in Groveland, but if I'm going to break down anywhere, it's going to be in a town like Groveland. That's all I have to say.
Very good, thank you. Okay, so we'll be taking questions from the audience.
Mitchell Croner, 3 Cannon Hill Road Extension. As you both know, we have a very important vote coming up on the new middle high school, question 1 on the ballot. So I'm just curious what each of your respective positions are on the ballot question. Thank you.
Ms. Young, you first.
Okay, the school, Big Cliff. I want to thank Greg Lebrecht. I wanted to learn about this. I went to him and I said, could you give me a little time? And he said, sure. And I stuck him in a conversation for over an hour, so big kudos to him. I appreciate it. I also went on the tour of the building. And this is what I say, why I get upset when people don't pay attention. I haven't paid attention. I'm one of those people. And to see what's going on in our school, in the corrosion, in the boiler room, in the electrical, is despicable. It is despicable. Now, we can't do anything right now. We're kind of stuck on a cliff. We go off one way or we go off the other because we need to do something, and the government's going to give us money. But you know, when something like this comes down, it's a lot of money. We're talking about over $31 million for this town, $31 million. And that's what they tell you. But when you start crunching the numbers, 30 years at 2.75, our town will actually be picking up just over 47 million. That's our share. We have 400 spots in this town, 400 between the middle school and the high school. And that's about $118,000 per student for the next 30 years. I feel for the older people in this town. What's the contingency? What's going to happen with them? They have a fix. I don't have a good spot economically, but I can go out and work. Done it before. But what do? This is the thing that bothers me. I know we need a new school. We need our children safe. But our elderly in town is just as important as our young children. And that's where my dilemma is. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. O'Neill.
I don't think it's a big shock. It won't come as a big surprise to anybody that knows I'm 100% for the new school. It's long overdue. This can has been kicked down the road far too long. We missed a huge opportunity years ago, which would have given us much more funding from the state at a lower cost. We missed that opportunity. If we miss it again, we may never have this opportunity from the state. The school is in dire states. As I've said, if the school was human, we would euthanize it. We would do the humane thing and let it go to wherever old buildings go. But it's time. And I understand my parents aged well into their 90s. I know what it's like to be on a fixed income. I know what it's like to have to choose between your meds, your heat, or whether you eat that night. It's a very difficult decision. I know I've made offers to run workshops here at Town Hall for any of the elderly to help with any kind of tax breaks we can give them, senior circuit breaker taxes, anything that could possibly help with their issues. I understand 100%, but I also understand that this school is vital to this community. It's the lifeblood of this community. It's more than just a building. This is our future, and this is an investment in the future. And I don't think any of your parents would have grudged a single dime for your education, and I don't think we should do it for our children. We should just find a way. As much as it's going to hurt, and it's going to hurt all of us, I agree. It's something that just needs to be done at this point. And again, I'm willing to help and run workshops for any of the seniors that need help, that don't have it, free of charge. And I'll get CPAs if I have to come down free of charge to help you out. That's all I can do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So any other questions? Yes.
Can you explain why you want to take away the independent voice of the town clerk and change it to an appointed position, when I think the people of town really appreciate our town clerks and want it to be elected?
Thank you. Mr. O'Neill.
I'd love to address that question. And I don't think it's been properly addressed. Part of the question on the ballot is allowing the town folk to make that decision, whether they think the town has got to a point where the town clerk is such a vital, important role to the town's taxpayers and to the town's citizens that it needs to be accountable to someone, somewhere, 24/7, 365. Not just once every 1,095 days, and that's only if it's not a leap year involved. It becomes a popularity contest. We need to bring the brightest, most qualified people to the table now. The town has grown too big. It's too important to leave it to happenstance. It becomes a popularity contest. And I made a little joke the other day that someday Tony the Pony is going to get elected and we're all going to regret it. It could be a joke, but we're going to have to live with it. It's not something that I'm looking forward to. We need control. Control comes when people are accountable on a daily basis. And for much the same reasons that the road commissioner is now accountable 24/7, 365. So when there's a pothole and it doesn't get fixed and we don't get an answer, or this board or the future boards of selectmen don't get an answer, I hope to God that they take action and show that person the door, because they no longer serve the community in their best interest. And that's what I'm out for. People that want to serve the community in the best interest of the taxpayer, and that's why the position, in my opinion, needs to it becomes accountable.
Thank you. Ms. Young.
Thank you. I think Mr. O'Neill has the jobs a little bit switched. The more responsible job is the selectmen, and we're voted by popular vote, unless I missed something. I think your selectman is more important than a town clerk. Let's be honest, people. It's a clerk's job. They push papers around. They don't make decisions. Your selectmen make decisions that have to do with your money. With your money, with your schools, with your employees, and with your volunteers. You don't like them, you have the voice to get rid of them. That's what elected position is about. As far as the clerk, every person in this town may not see every office, but they're in the clerk's office. The clerk office is very important. It's the connection to the people, and yes, the people should vote who they want in that office. And the minute you obfuscate responsibility to somebody who is in charge, like a board of selectmen, and take away your vote, you're in trouble. You never relinquish your right to vote just for something that gives you security. Because in the end, you have neither. You lose your voice. And I believe Benjamin Franklin said that. Never lose your voice to anybody. That's when you lose your right in the town. If you lived in the city of Salem, or the city of Haverhill, you don't have a voice. You can complain about things, but nobody hears you. You forget how great you have in this town because your voice does matter. You have to learn to use it. Thank you.
Thank you. So are there any other questions from the audience?
Actually, do I get to rebut that?
You know, certainly. I'll give you each an opportunity. Sure.
Thank you. Pushing papers around. I got to be honest with you. I think there's a lot more than just pushing papers around. If your loved one had just passed away and you needed a death certificate to bury your loved one, that's just not pushing papers around. If you need a marriage certificate, That's just not pushing papers around. You need a birth certificate to get a passport, because God forbid you need to get on a plane in a hurry to a foreign country to see an ailing loved one before they pass on. That's just not pushing paper around. That role is here every day of the week. As grandiose as some people might think this Board of Selectmen position is, we meet every other week for maybe 2 or 3 hours a night. Compared to that role that's responsible for an awful lot than just pushing paper around, I think there is a different perspective how we view the positions. If we're not here on a Tuesday night, hopefully your loved one will get buried because you got the death certificate. If we're not here on a Wednesday afternoon, hopefully you got the birth certificate that enabled you to get the passport to get to where you needed to go. If we're not here on a Thursday morning, hopefully you got the marriage certificate that allowed you to run off and elope with your loved one. It's not just pushing paper around, so I really have to disagree with that.
Thank you. And Ms. Young?
Well, we're just a small town. We don't have 20,000 papers, or I don't think anybody's going to lose birth certificates. But you know, when you show up and you're the head of a town and you're responsible for what's going on in people's lives and what problems they have and what taxes you're going to burn them on because you're going to spend in the budget, I think that's more important. And when you're showing up twice a month, I don't think that's good enough. I don't think that's good enough. We have very few workers in this town, and they're not very happy. We have volunteers that have been neglected and abused by these people that show up twice a month. Isn't that what they're here for? They're here to help us, to be our voice. I'm sorry. I think the people in this town are a lot nicer than what we're being represented for. And I'm really very disgusted by it. And that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. So, are there any other questions from the audience? Okay. So then we're going to move to closing statements, and Ms. Young, you'll go first. You have 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay. I'll be shorter this time. I believe my background is an asset as a selectman. I understand budgets, payrolls, employee management, building and zoning issues. I've dealt with customers and workers in different capacities. Never seeking a career when I left school, I was always willing to learn something new and to help somebody out. And let me tell you, it has enriched my life greatly. For the first time, I'm stepping forward without being asked. And it's very uncomfortable for me, I'll be honest with you. It's very uncomfortable. I feel the selectmen should be more involved in the town and its workers. I think the board should spend more time listening to the people they represent before they go and make decisions that affect them. It's a position that requires more than showing up twice a month. It's a bigger commitment. I am willing to make that commitment. I am willing to show up a couple times a week and talk to all the departments and the workers and to get on whatever their problem is and to make sure that any volunteers, which are getting smaller and smaller in this town, are treated properly. I'd appreciate your support in this opportunity to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. O'Neill.
Well, I'm not sure who has appreciated the volunteerism in this town more than I have. As you recall, 3 years ago when I first became a selectman, I started the Volunteer of the Month program to recognize the volunteerism in this town and to recognize the great things that people did. So I'm not against volunteerism. I'm much for it. As far as my background, I think I spent 4 years on the capital improvement, 4 years on the Finance Committee concurrently, and spent the last 3 years on the Board of Selectmen. I try to make decisions that are fair for all, not just for one. I try to have everyone's best interest, not just the few. As Aristotle, Plato, and Socrates taught us, try to do the greatest good for the greatest number, and if you can do that, you succeed in life. I believe, as my opponent said, you need to get involved, and anybody that knows me knows that I'm involved in this town as you can be. And I've got dirt all over my body to prove it. I've coached just about every youth sport there is. I know most of these kids in town because I've coached them all. I roll up my sleeves and I do get involved. And it's more than just being here 2 hours a month. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. It's a tremendous commitment. And my commitment, I believe, is shown. In the 3 years I've been selectman, I've missed one board meeting. That's commitment. When I dive into the pool, I dive in head first, and I immerse myself. That's my DNA. I'm not going to do a great job. I want to continue to do a great job. I hope you'll support me as you've done in the past, and I appreciate it. All your kind words and all you've done for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I'll now call up the 5 candidates running for 1 3-year term as town clerk. So that would be John P. Bevilacqua, Norma J. Bird, Elizabeth M. Cuniff, Bonnie J. Wood, and Catherine M. Young. So we'll go Young, Wood, Cuniff, Bird, Bevilacqua first. So, okay. Okay. Very good. Okay, thank you. So we'll begin with opening statements. You'll each have 2 minutes. Mr. Bevilacqua, you're first.
Okay. What I've done is I went over to visit the city clerk in Haverhill. I spent several hours with her trying to get a better understanding of what the job of city clerk or town clerk is. There's not a lot of difference between. Basically, I took notes until she moved me to another room. Her name is Linda Gouliadis. And she splits the job into 2 positions, vital records and elections. Split it down the middle. Vital records is, there's a website for all the vital records. There's a state system that they use. You go online. In fact, Ann Brody showed me the other day, in this office here, I was in there shooting the bull. She showed me how to do death certificates. It's all online. You don't wait for the funeral home to call you. You got to go to the state system and get that, and then you process the paperwork that way. Marriage licenses, death certificates, and ZBA decisions, and all vital records for the town. It's a lot of paper to organize. Pushing papers isn't right. You have to organize. You have to know what you're doing. You have to know where it goes. And so you're responsible for all the records in the town. You have to know where it is. You have to keep track of it. It's difficult if you have to kind of be organized, like me. So that was the main thing that I did. I spent time over in Haverhill talking to the city clerk there to get a better understanding of what a town clerk actually does, and I think I had a better idea. Then I found out watching Channel 9 that Beth Brody is going to be around for another week after the election. The first thing I asked her when I decided to run, I passed in my papers. Said, Beth, are you going to be around for a week or 2 after the election? She said, if they don't throw me out. I figured nobody's going to throw her out, so I figured she'd be around for another week to provide further assistance.
Thank you. Ms. Bird.
Good afternoon. My name is Norma Bird, and I'm running for town clerk because I've lived in town pretty much all my life, and just looking to give back to a community that I love and a community where I brought my kids up and came back for the very reason of living in a small town. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Cuniff.
I'm a little nervous, so I prepared a statement, and I will read from it.
And actually, one question, could you pull the mic close to you? Yep, pull it really close. So just, don't hesitate to speak right into it. Thank you.
All right. First of all, I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for inviting us here tonight and the opportunity to introduce ourselves, and I thank everyone for attending. My name is Elizabeth Cuniff. I go by Beth. I grew up in Malden. I went to Malden High School. I have a bachelor degree from the University of Massachusetts. My husband Kevin and I moved to Groveland 28 years ago, and we chose Groveland because we wanted a family to raise our children in a small town with a strong sense of community, and Groveland was the right choice. I'm very happy to call Groveland my home. I believe in giving back, and I volunteered in the schools when my children were young. I was president of the Bagnell Education Foundation. I served on the PTA and the PTO. I was a school council rep, and I was on the principal search team. I was a CCD teacher and a Girl Scout leader. When I heard that Beth Brody decided not to run for the position for town clerk, I felt it was a great opportunity for me to get involved and give back to Groveland again. I have worked for 35 years in the public and private sector. Currently, I am a program coordinator for the Department of Conservation and Recreation, which manages all state recreation properties. I have extensive experience in bookkeeping, accounting, record keeping, and the Commonwealth of Mass. I'm dry, sorry. Computer operating systems, thank you. I know the importance of staying within budget and the most efficient use of monies in the best possible way. Thank you. A number of people have asked me why I'm running. I would like to keep the vital records of Groveland. It's very important to keep those records. I will continue to use the Mass General Law rules and stay up to date on all proper procedures. The office has started to go into computers, and I will continue to support that. Thank you. I don't pretend to know everything. The position, I want the position because I have a passion for Groveland. I'm a hard worker, a team player, and I will give 110%. I understand the importance of confidentiality, and I'm asking for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Wood.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bonnie Wood. Thank you for hosting this tonight because I think it's a great way to meet us and not just see our names on signs across town. I've been in Groveland for 40 years. My husband Mike and I have 2 children, Spencer and Amber, both in the school system. I've been interested in this position for years, but I knew Ann was in it, and I wasn't going to go against Ann. She's been doing it for 12, 13 years. So when I heard she was retiring, I jumped at the chance. I have years of experience working with people. I have the ability to multitask. I have great oral and written communication. I'm able to work independently as well as cohesively with others. I'm able to stay organized. I'm very punctual. You can call it my OCD. I know how to use office equipment. If I'm elected, I plan on attending training courses for town clerks because I think there's always room for improvement. There is one coming up in June that I would like to attend if elected. I enjoy building strong, solid relationships, and I'm always putting the customer first. I'm an efficient professional. I'm reliable while always staying positive. I'm known to be a happy-go-lucky person. Those of you know me know I have a contagious laugh, people say. So, I've been an occupational therapy assistant for almost 20 years. My experience includes several years in customer service. Some improvements that I would like to make if I was elected were to be improved and up-to-date communication with the residents of town, other government officials and town employees, use government software to make actions more efficient and user-friendly. I would develop a transition plan so that the next elected town clerk would have an easier time. I have already inquired about hiring a per diem person to cover the offices for any absences, because right now, if she's out, the office is closed. I requested to shadow our town clerk on several occasions, but was declined, so I reached out to other town clerks, and 2 of them were lucky enough and happy enough to show me, and I must say that I became more confident that I would be perfect for the position. I have excelled in every job that I've ever had. I know that if I have enough of your votes, I have all the skills needed to do the job, and I'll do my best to make all of you proud.
Thank you. Ms. Young.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Catherine Young. My family moved here when I was 5 years old. I began my school years at Bagnell, and I graduated from Pentucket. As my fellow classmates went on to college, I chose a career in the Marine Corps. I've always had a deep love for my country, and the military history within my family inspired me to join the service. I was able to qualify for avionics, which was my dream job. Unfortunately, during combat training, I received a head injury. This injury caused me to lose the connection to my equilibrium. Trying to walk without balance caused other physical problems. Many would ask what kind of experience I would have to be a clerk. I excel on the computer, I can type 70 words a minute, and I'm knowledgeable with printers and scanners. But the most important part of being a clerk in a small town is your character, because sooner or later, everybody's going to need to visit the clerk's office. Whoever occupies that position should be pleasant, accommodating, and reliable. As a Marine, I was taught the value of responsibility, courtesy, organization, and the importance of putting others first. Even though I regained my ability to walk, TBI is considered a permanent disability in the government. That means that no matter how perfectly physically fit I am, the military allowed me back into the Corps. My dreams of serving my country are no longer an option to me, so I would like the opportunity to serve my town. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we'll move on to questions from the audience. Okay. It's very, I don't want to limit your applause. It's very nice. So, questions from the audience. This gentleman will bring you a microphone. Okay.
Hi, Bill O'Neill, 45 Elm Park. What does the word integrity mean to each one of you?
Thank you. And Ms. Wood.
Oh, integrity. Basically, everything good. You need to have integrity. You need to have belief in yourself that you're doing the right thing, no matter what the consequences. Speak up for things that you don't feel is right. Change things to make things right. I know for myself that, I don't know if some of you have actually read some of the town crier or anything, but I believe in telling the truth no matter what the consequences are, and that's integrity to me.
Thank you. Ms. Young.
Well, like Ms. Wood said, it's a lot about being honest with yourself and with others. And in regards to what has been going on, I'm not going to make much of a comment because no one's ever talked to me about it. I have been volunteering in there. I'm not ashamed of it. I haven't been learning the job. I've been in there since August. And if anybody was concerned about it, I don't know why they haven't come to me to talk to me about it. I would have had no problem explaining it. But I've decided to throw my hat in the ring because I took a liking to the job, and I wasn't going to let the race, stop me from volunteering. I just carried on my own business because I got nothing to hide. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bevilacqua.
Hello. I was a member of the Board of Health in Groveland for 26 years. I never did anything wrong. I was honest with everybody, open and honest, and played everything straight down the line. Some things have changed since I've left, but 26 years in the Groveland Board of Health. 2 terms, 1972 to 1980, then 1989 to 2005. I was also a youth soccer coach, helping Mitch out, coach girls softball as well. I have all daughters, so everything is girls. Volunteered with the Boy Scouts and volunteered with the Girl Scouts. Being a Girl Scout volunteer is great because when you're a man volunteering for the Girl Scouts, at nighttime, you got to go to a separate room, close the door. All the noise, you don't have to hear it. I also brought recycling to Groveland originally. I was a member of the Board of Health. Recycling didn't exist. In fact, the site of the old dump, we had a site for a dump in Groveland. I won't tell you where it is. It's across from Tony George's house. But the town just sold that land, thank God. Tony's a great guy. And I was on the Greater Lawrence Solid Waste Committee, did many Pentucket Regional High School fundraisers. Do you remember the Easter egg drop? I got to fly. Red Slavitt was going to take me up in his helicopter. We were going to drop Easter eggs down at VZ Park. But Timmy took me up in an airplane. And I've been very diligent in my work in the Department of Energy Resources, providing grant money to the Bagnall School and the PV system down at the Pawtucket High School. I went all through that high school 10 years ago. The electrical system was a disaster. The PV system wouldn't work because the electrical system at the high school wouldn't handle it. And we couldn't give extra money to Pentucket because the School Building Assistance Bureau would not fund repairs. I've got many years of public service in Groveland and with the state, and that's integrity.
Ms. Byrd.
Hello. I think integrity is who you are as a person. If you are trustworthy, you show that in everything that you do in life. I think I'm trustworthy. I think I'm it's not just something that you show sometimes. It's who you are as a person deep down inside, how much you value yourself and the people in your community or where you work. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Cuniff.
Thank you. I agree. Integrity is the core of who you are. Sorry. Integrity is the core of who you are. If you're honest and decent and compassionate with the people you live with, if you work hard in your community, if you give back to your community, integrity is the most important quality you can have. And I think I have a great deal of integrity, and I would be perfect for the job. Thank you.
Thank you. So other questions from the audience? Yes.
Mitchell Croner again, 3 Cannon Hill Road Extension. I'm not trying to be humorous or disrespectful, but I am just curious how each of you would feel, or what you would feel whether it was appointed or elected. First of all, I give you all credit. I don't think I could do it. Run for an office where I'm sure you're all very capable. I hope with 5 people it just doesn't become a popularity contest. I've had my differences with some of the selectmen over the years. I think there's 3 of them here, but I will give credit. I will give credit where credit is due. I think they've done a very good job hiring outside people, highway, the planner, the finance director, and I know some of you are a little nervous up there, and I just wonder if it would be a better fit for the town going forward to have an actual interview process rather than leave it up to the voters. And, maybe it is time to look ahead, and, the town has changed over the years, so I'm just curious about that.
Thank you. So Ms. Young.
Well, thank you for that question, and I do believe it should remain to the voters because, yes, it's very important in terms of filing and handling records, but, you can pick it up. But customer service is the other half of it, and that does take a special person because, as I said in my opening statement, everyone at some point is going to need that office, and you got to know how to deal with the people. And in a small town like this, there's some people that come in there and they just want to talk. And you want to make them feel comfortable, especially since they're knowing that you're dealing with their records. You want them to trust you. So I think it should remain elected because it is the people's office.
Thank you. Mr. Bevilacqua.
I believe that the positions should remain elected. The last 4 town clerks have done an excellent job. Beth Brody, Dick Shaka, Dick Abbott, who I think is in the hospital in and out. He's not doing very well, I guess. And the lady before that, Etta Burke was her name. So they all did a great job, and I went to Merrimack College, spent a little bit of time up at UNH. I never saw a class in town clerk. You can't take a class it doesn't exist. Or NECO, I went to NECO. There's no class in town clerk. So if you're going to find, there's not a million people out there with town clerk experience. There's people like me who have good organizational skills and can pick up information rather quickly, like many of the other people. You can't go to Merrimack College, UNH, or University of Utah and get town clerk experience. They don't have the classes. So there isn't a huge array of people who can be town clerk. I'll get a degree in town clerk. Doesn't exist. It doesn't happen.
Thank you.
I agree with Selectman Watson on that. It's funny. Eddie's the biggest Republican in town. I'm the biggest Democrat. We're at war forever. Now I'm on his side.
Thank you.
In fact, your mother said I stole some signs from your house one day. I know you. Well, the guy who took the signs is down at Riverview. He died.
Okay. So, Ms. Byrd?
I think that it should stay the way it is with it being elected. I think that if it's a position in town that is mainly customer service, and I think if you saw a familiar face in town of somebody that's lived here pretty much as long as all of us on this board have, I think you would feel more comfortable coming in, getting personal information from somebody that you probably have known for a long time. I think it should stay elected. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Cuniff?
Thank you. I agree. I think it should be an elected position. The people get to make the choice of who they would like to take care of the vital records in the town. I would like to see it stay as an elected position. Thank you.
And Ms. Wood?
I have mixed feelings about this one. I do feel that the people should be able to meet the candidates just like we are doing now. What I don't agree with is that whomever gets elected is elected for the next 3 years, regardless of how they do their job. They're not held accountable for not doing a good job. They're not held accountable if they're not communicating with other board members, or not following through with phone calls, or not answering emails. There's been problems with the town clerk's office, and because it's an elected position, they can't do anything about it. So yes, I do think it's, people should have a say in who the next one should be. Having an appointed and actually coming in before the board with a resume, your background, your skills, and actually being held accountable, I think I'm kind of leaning towards that, to be honest with you. I think no matter which candidate up here gets elected, I think that they need to do their very best job, but if they're not being successful at it, I think there should be some kind of consequences, and right now, there isn't any because it's an elected position.
Thank you. So, other questions? Sure. You do. Just state your name and address.
Inez Steele, 6 Union Street, Groveland, Massachusetts. And I hear a lot of the candidates saying that the most important part of the job is being friendly and making people feel comfortable when they come in. Well, I want to feel comfortable when I come into the town clerk's office too, but what's more important to me is that those records are kept in order, that they can be found, that the information that's in them is confidential. I would really like to know from all of you what skill set, what experience you have in the background. I mean, I do expect anybody in town government, especially those that are elected, I mean, we're the taxpayers and we're paying, I would expect you to be pleasant to us when we walk in. And if I need to go chat someplace, it's not going to be at the town clerk's office. I go in there for business. So from the business perspective, please give me your background and your credentials and the skill set that you bring.
Thank you. Ms. Cuniff, you first.
Hi. I've worked for the Commonwealth of Mass for about 27 years. I am familiar with the computer operating systems for the Commonwealth of Mass, and I understand well the confidentiality of a position when you work for the state. You need to you need to keep your word. You need to be able to I guess I'm sorry. I know. I think I will do a very good job performing. I have a long history of record keeping, bookkeeping, and keeping records. My personality would make me the perfect candidate to be confidential. I don't just talk for the sake of talking, and I wouldn't allow people to just hang out in an office. It's a professional area, and people need to come in, do their business, feel welcome, and move on. So, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Byrd.
Confidentiality, I've worked at Bagnell School for 11 plus years prior to going to where I'm at right now, Whittier Health Network. And confidentiality has been something that you always had to have. You mean you can't talk about somebody else's kids on the baseball field because you don't know whose parent might be around. So, I mean, confidentiality is something that everybody should have, no matter what your job is. My job that I'm at right now is a purchasing assistant. I'm confidential with what our vendors tell us and the information that they give us and what the owners of Whittier Health do and what they have. And so, I mean, I think everybody has confidentiality in what they should say to people or not say to people if it's outside of the workplace. If somebody outside of the workplace doesn't need to know, like when we were with kids, if I'm talking with another teacher about a student, it would have to be a teacher that had something to do with that student. If the teacher didn't have that student in class, then shouldn't be talking to that teacher about that student. It's all on the circle of who's with that certain child. It's the same thing in the workforce. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Wood?
Most of my career has actually been keeping confidentiality. I was an occupational therapy assistant for almost 20 years, doing direct patient care from elementary school kids all the way up through geriatrics. I was working in a skilled nursing facility in North Andover, on the transitional care unit, on the Alzheimer's unit, treating patients one-on-one. So yes, we had to keep everything in confidence. What we said, what we wrote down, we had to follow HIPAA laws. So that goes across the board no matter what you do, you know. You're not going to be discussing patients and disclosing names and their diagnoses and things like that. You just don't do that. It's common practice. I've done it most of my career. So yeah, it's a big part of the job. So same thing with people coming into the office, you know. Inside the office, there is a lot of, I guess it's public knowledge. I mean, people actually can have access to it, but there's no reason for someone to go back there. It's the town clerk's position. They should be in charge of all the filing, the paperwork and what have you. It's no one else's business. You know, if something's requested from that person and they show their ID, they need a birth certificate or something, that's completely different. But I'm not going to just give Joe Schmo someone's information, no.
Thank you. Ms. Young?
Well, I'm going to be perfectly honest. I don't have much of background in terms of confidentiality. I will say that as a Marine, that was ingrained in me, you know, being respectful to others, and if there's private information, you know, you don't share it unless that person gives you the permission to share that. And that's really all I have.
Okay. Mr. Bevilacqua?
Well, I retired from the state working for the Massachusetts. I worked for State Senator Sharon Pollard for several years. Then I went to the state energy office. I retired after 40 years, and a lot of the stuff that we did in the state senate and the energy office was public information. However, going over to Haverhill, Linda told me certain things which are top secret. You can't show it to anybody else. And so I respect that. Don't show it to, if it's none of your business, I agree with Miss Wood, who's kind of my cousin, by the way.
Not by blood.
No. Anyway, if it's none of your business, then it's none of your business, then you don't show it to anybody else, period. There's rules and regulations that deal with that, and I follow the rules and regulations to a T. If John Osborne can't see it, he can't see it. Sorry, John.
What did I do?
I know, that's what you did. You just sat there.
Okay. So that's all. So other questions? Okay.
Lee Thomas, 4 Baldwin Terrace. I'm just a little bit concerned because you're talking about confidentiality. I was wondering what your position is about if there's would be a conflict of interest of having someone in the town clerk's office connected to someone who's on the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you. Mr. Bevilacqua, you're first.
Well, when I first got elected back in 1972, I was 18 years old. My father was a chairman of the Board of Selectmen, so I don't consider this a conflict of interest at all. I was a chairman of the Board of Health. I was on the Board of Health. I wasn't the chairman. John McCarthy was. I was a member of the Board of Health. My father was the selectman, so I don't see it as a conflict of interest.
Thank you. Ms. Wood?
Yes, I basically called and spoke with the Ethics Committee regarding this because I wanted to make sure there wasn't going to be any conflict of interest because some of you, we were told, we were actually given paperwork, so I can put it on the town pages if you'd like. But there's ethical codes and standard of conduct 05-01, 05-03, sections 19 and section 23. Disclosure of appearance. As long as there's no financial decisions or decisions to better the other position, we're actually fine. They're completely separate entities because they're both elected officials. So I did do my homework because I wanted to make sure that there weren't going to be a problem.
Thank you. Ms. Cuniff?
I do think it's a questionable area of whether there's a conflict of interest. I know you got the ruling, but town elections, as the town clerk, you oversee the town elections, and I just think it's a questionable area, and I'm not sure how comfortable I feel with it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Young?
Mrs. Wood kind of stole a bit of my thunder.
Sorry.
That's okay. I personally, I don't see where there's a conflict of interest there. Now, if it were appointed, that would be a different story, because if you had someone on the Board of Selectmen and they're about to appoint a town clerk and they happen to be related to somebody who is looking for the position, they're gonna show bias, and that's where it's the difference. It's because they're elected, no conflict of interest, but you're gonna cross that road into ethics violations if it's appointed.
Can I add something to that?
Thank you.
Can I add something?
Well, actually, Ms. Bird gets to answer, and then I'll let you all re-comment if you'd like. Ms. Bird.
I don't think it's a conflict of interest either if the position stays elected. I don't see that there's any conflict of interest. Thank you.
Okay. So now, if I give you an opportunity, then all of you have another opportunity to just to have a 30-second rebuttal. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that basically, as soon as I decided to make the decision to run for the town clerk, my husband has been recused himself as far as anything to do with town clerk discussions. He hasn't been voting, he hasn't been stating anything, he's staying completely out of the discussion, just for that very reason. And, you know, this isn't just some Joe Schmo job for me. I actually really want this job. I would think it would be a great career change for me. I loved my job before. I physically can't handle it anymore. This would be the perfect job. I get to work with people again, and I get to help people, which is what I've always wanted to do. My husband has said that if it comes to a point in time where things get a little iffy, he would actually step down for me, just to you know, get that out there. But as far as things are happening right now, they're both elected positions. I contacted the state, and they're saying everything's fine. So,
thank you. And Ms. Cuniff, do you have anything to add?
Just that we're also discussing the fact that we might change it from an elected position to an appointed position. So it would become questionable if it were an appointed position. And even if an individual recused themselves, they still have taken part in a lot of the thought process and the actions on as the group of selectmen. So I do still feel uncomfortable with it, even with the legal decision.
Thank you. Ms. Young.
I have nothing to add.
Okay. Ms. Byrd
I have nothing to add either.
and Mr. Bevilacqua.
No, I appreciate the fact that Ms. Wood checked with the State Ethics Commission. I had to do that when I was on the radio. So I was on the radio station. I had to check with the Ethics Commission to see if I could stay on the radio and work for the state. I could not mention the State Department of Energy while I was on the radio. I could talk about everything else, but not that. They were very specific as to what I could do. And I believe what she says. I don't think there's a conflict of interest, appointed or elected.
Thank you. So, any more questions? Okay. So then we will move on to closing statements. You'll have 2 minutes, and Ms. Young, you'll go first.
Well, first, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this event, and I want to thank all of you who showed up tonight. And to all those who have shown me support, I fully appreciate their support. I want to commend Ann Brody for 12 years of great service to this town, and I want to wish her a happy retirement.
Thank you. Ms. Wood.
I wanted to thank everyone here as well for taking the time to actually get to meet us. Like I said, it's a little bit easier to get to know us when you're here face to face and listening to what we have to offer, instead of just seeing names scattered across town. Like I said, I grew up in Groveland. I was 4 or 5. My maiden name was Belmore. My parents are right there. We grew up on Yale Street. I married my high school sweetheart. We were both in, high school. Both our kids are going through the school system. My in-laws were from Groveland. They're still in Groveland. My father-in-law went through the school systems. He actually used to teach at Pentucket. We're ingrained in Groveland. We love Groveland. This is our home. And I would love to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cuniff.
Thank you. I would also like to thank the League of Women's Voters again and for this wonderful opportunity. And I also wanted to thank Katie for your service. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I believe that 35 years of experience allows me to bring Groveland. I will bring professionalism to this important job. I also believe that my 28 years of living in Groveland will bring a personal aspect to the job. I believe in Groveland, and I want to see everything the best for Groveland. All of my positions have helped me develop strong skills. I work independently. I am a team player, both of which are very important for this position. I believe that staying in touch with technology and the changes and a better organized office is what's going to be great for our community. I think the personal touch, as much as it's been discussed, is also very important. When a person moves into the town of Groveland and they come in to register to vote, the first person they end up talking to is the town clerk. It's their first impression of the town. It's how they become comfortable. I think Ann has done a wonderful job over the past 12 years. She's greeted people with a warm, welcoming smile, and I think that's important to continue. We all are representing Groveland. We're a team, we work together, and the benefit of working well together as the town hall is that we have a better community. In an effort to meet and introduce myself to people, I have been walking door to door, and I plan to continue that. I've had the opportunity to meet some of the nicest people in my life in Groveland. I feel that this job would allow me to give back to a community that's given so much to me. I will give 110%. I will utilize my skills and play an important role as a team player in the town hall. And tonight I'm asking you for your vote. My name is Elizabeth Cuniff. Please vote May 6th. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Byrd.
Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight, and thank you to the Women's League of Voters for giving us this opportunity to speak in front of you. Just say, I love Groveland, always have, would appreciate your vote on May 6th, and that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bevilacqua.
Bill O'Neill took my closing statement. Now I got to come up with something different. I was going to tell about my wonderful skills that I've developed over the last 50 years, but thanks a lot. Now I got to start all over again. What I wanted to show you, The second part of what the city clerk told me in Haverhill was there's the filing of information and keeping track of that. Then there's the elections. Nobody seems to talk about the elections very much. I remember Kathy Castronellis, I was watching the Finance Board meeting, saying that they're going to get new voting machines. Something I don't have to worry about, new voting machines. Hope that they work. And I got here some templates on what to do for the election, local election prep list and a federal election prep checklist. These are boilerplate. You come out and you just follow all these steps here. So it's all pretty, it's well spelled out. I'll follow all these steps all the way to make sure that the elections are fair and honest. They go so far as to say when the DPW is supposed to set up the voting machines. I got a kick out of that lady, those signs over there. So I've known Ann Brody for 45 years, 60 years, and she's done a great job. I knew that other people who were town clerks before for a very long time, and I hope that Ann does well. And I am very happy that she's going to be here for an additional week after the election, because I told her before I filed my nomination papers, Ann, you going to be around? Yeah. Well, she said, if they don't throw me out. No way they're going to throw her out. So I filed the papers. I was in the other day, and talking about confidentiality, a death certificate came in. There's two parts. You get the death certificate, part one, then there's part two, which says the cause of death. That's nobody's business. The cause of death is nobody's business. That's what's supposed to be. It's in a file, and nobody can touch it. It's top secret information that nobody can have.
Okay.
So trust me, if I get your information, no one's going to see it unless they're authorized to see it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, I had to say, I've been here. My brother Jimmy, he's a bigger, wise guy than me. People say, how long have you been here? He goes, forever. My family was the first family to settle Groveland.
Okay. Thank you very much. So thank you very much to all the candidates. Thank you.
Very nice.
So, thank you. So the next segment, I know, that was long. But the next segment will be devoted to the questions on the ballot. So if you could just take your seats, yet. Okay, so thank you. So we do have another part to the forum. So I'm going to call up Michael Wood to talk about question 1. Which is about the debt exclusion override to pay Groveland's share of the costs for a new middle high school to be located at 24 Main Street in West Newbury. So Michael will be talking about the question, and so if you do need to leave, if you could exit quietly, that would be much appreciated. Thank you.
Do I only have 2 minutes?
So you have 5 minutes to talk.
I'm so nervous.
And then I'm actually going to just ask the audience whether there's anyone in the audience who would like to offer, an opposing viewpoint to what Michael presents.
Well, there's not a whole lot I can add. If you've watched the presentations by Dr. B at the Board of Selectmen meetings or online, or in the schools throughout the district here, he's done a great job along with the school committees on demonstrating the need for the school, the new school, the problems that are with the existing school, the age of it, the infrastructure, everything that goes along with it. So I can't add a whole lot other than to say I am in support of it. I realize the cost is going to be a burden for a lot of us. I don't want to pay extra money either on my tax bill. But there comes a time when you have to just realize that the long-term plan to build a school and the impact on the economy and your housing values and the overall benefit of the town is more beneficial than an increase in your one-year tax bill. Now, I realize that depending on the value of your house would depend on the increase of your tax bill associated with this. Mine end up being over $1,000. So I realize that that is not insignificant, but you look at the opportunity we had 20 years ago to do this school project, and it didn't pass. We lost out on 70% or 72% reimbursement. Now we're at 52%. If we kick this down the road again, we're not going to have much of a reimbursement, and we'll be flipping the bill for all of the repairs, regardless of what they will be. So this is a good opportunity to take advantage of the state kicking in $50 million, $52.7 million, maybe $54 million. Better the school system, better your house values, and then just take advantage of it while you can and move forward with it. Happy to try and answer any questions there, maybe. Go.
Outside of the new, sorry, Brian Canizaro, Norman Commons. Outside of the school obviously being used as a school, is there any other feasibility as to other use of the school?
Not that I'm aware of. Really, the school is at a crossroads, right? It's in dire straits. Did you take a tour of it?
No, I have not. I've just done the online.
Right. So I've taken the tour. I've actually been working with Dr. B, the maintenance crew there at the high school and the middle school behind the scenes for a year and a half or 2 years. So I've taken my own tour. I've seen the numbers they represented. I see the value in what the cost of the school is going to be for a new school versus what the cost of renovating the existing structures will be if this doesn't pass. And the cost to renovate is more than to build new. So the plan is to build new behind the high school and then tear down the other structures once everybody's in the new school, and then make that more of a facility for the sports complex. So the new lacrosse football stadium, the new, I think it's a baseball stadium, a baseball field out front. So you can't repurpose that building. There's asbestos, there's bad plumbing, there's bad HVAC, there's bad electrical, there's bad foundations. You can't really repurpose that and build a new school. It's a complete tear down.
Yeah, but I guess my real question is within the new building, besides during the day it's used as a school.
Oh, you mean after hours?
But after hours, whether it's for other functions,
Yes.
you know, a possibility of a place for the seniors
Yes,
to
so-
meet at. Are there plans as the construction or as the feasibility for the use of the building moves forward? Will those things be taken account
Right,
for?
so the plan's already been drawn up and approved by the state. And in that plan is an atrium in the forefront of the school that can be used for outside activities, like for senior centers or for any other activities that may want to be inside, especially during the winter. So that is part of the plan and the design that was approved by the state. So yes.
And as far as the accessibility to the building, what have the security measures already been determined at this particular point? So you know whether you're a student or a visitor to the building, these
Yes.
things are being taken into account.
Yes, so the glass is sufficient. You can't really talk about security measures. The access points are regulated. There are not multiple access points. You're not going from one building to another building in open air like you are now. So there's an entranceway for the middle school side. Just to point out, you're getting 2 schools here, not 1. So you get an entrance for the middle school side, and then you get an entrance for the high school side. So controlled access is a priority there.
Okay, and my last issue is...
No, you're the only one asking, so
Yeah,
keep going.
and I guess the
We're
last-
having a one-on-one, that's
Yeah,
great.
I guess the last issue is when the building is actually completed, will the residents of all 3 towns be allowed to actually access the building before it's occupied with students to kind of do a walkthrough, see what it's like, or will you guys go back to the overview on the website, do a video?
I think that's a
through the
great
building?
idea. I think
mean-
that that would be something that I will bring to Dr. B next week. That, you know, if this passes, which I hope it does, that after the school is built and everything is done, that the residents who put this forward are able to take a tour of the new school and see just how grandiose it is compared to the one that's 60 years old. I think that's a great idea. I will bring that forward.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a question.
You got to sit over here.
I know, right? So I'm curious about whether so I'm assuming it's Groveland, West Newbury, and...
Merrimack.
and Merrimack. So have those towns approved this at town meeting?
No, so there's a two-part process to this. So on town meeting night, which is Monday night for each town, it has to pass town meeting night, and then after that, it has to go to the ballot. On the
right.
election night.
Oh,
So it has to pass both, well, all three towns twice.
Twice, right. Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else?
So, okay. Sure.
Speak up. You don't need anything.
It's that- Thank you.
I can try.
Sorry. Obviously, I have a vested interest. I have one child and I'm pregnant with another. My kids will go to these schools. Can you explain what's going to happen if people say no and the schools break down anyways?
Yes. It's not going to be good news. It's going to be more expensive. So the estimates to renovate the high school as is $73 million. All right. The estimate to renovate as is $40 million. And within those numbers, you have a 30% clause, which means if you reach 30% of the value of the building, you then have to meet complete ADA compliance, which means widening the hallways, widening the doors, redoing everything, which makes the bathrooms and rooms smaller. So the cost to not put this through is much higher and much more detrimental than putting it through. Right now, you know the cost of what you have to pay, right? It's high. Not knowing the cost in 3 or 4 years is much higher.
Okay, and we have another question.
I thought this was going to be easy.
Within that,
Could you identify yourself?
yes, my name is John Stokes from 92 Seven Star Road.
Thank you.
Within that answer, could you also tell the people, a lot of people are thinking, well, geez, 30% of the assessed value of the school. Well, the assessed value of the school, isn't it around 10 million for the high school and about 3 million for the middle school? So it's
Whatever
not
the-
going to take you long to
Right.
get to 30% and have all this stuff kick in so that you're going to spend, what, $120 million, 111, whatever the
You're
number
going to
is,
be at
as opposed to 92.
at least 115 million,
Right,
which is
so-
going to be 25 million over.
Dollar-wise speaking, you're better off to get this new thing up and running.
I don't have the exact numbers of the value that it's currently placed at for each building. I know Dr. B had talked about it, so I can get those. But you're right, that 30% is going to kick in real quick.
Okay.
My comments are not counter to Mr. Wood. They're in support.
And you are?
Dick Hodges, 35 Union Street, Groveland. If we were to rebuild 2 buildings that are deteriorating, the total cost would be $114.9 million to repair the high school and middle school for exactly what you said. Even the hallways would have to be restructured because they're too narrow. With the 52% that the state is offering, we would be paying $93.2 million to build a brand-new, state-of-the-art middle high school.
Right.
That's a savings of $21.7 million. And we did have a chance. You're absolutely right. We were in the low 70s. We'll never, ever. I can remember when the state used to provide 75% for these bills. We'll never see those kinds of figures again. So I'm voting in favor of this, not because I'm on the school committee, but from a mathematical standpoint, this is actually an investment. And believe me, I'm on a fixed income. And I think the people in 1956 voted for this when they were on a fixed income. And my second point is I'm doing this on behalf of kids. Kids I don't even know, but that's my job on the school committee, to be supporting staff and kids.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, you can't ask a question. Do I have to answer her question?
You do.
I have the car
Moderator
keys.
rules.
I have the car keys.
You do.
Bonnie Wood, 8 School Street. This is just in case some of you haven't been following along regarding the schools, but can you tell people what will happen to the students in the schools if the infrastructure starts to fail and this does not pass? What
Right.
happens to the students?
It'll be pure chaos. What will happen is the high school will be emptied. The high school students will go to the middle school while they renovate the high school. The middle school students will stay at the elementary schools in each town, and it'll stay that way for 4 years maybe. Afterwards, the high school would be then put back at the high school building. The middle schools will go over to the high school building or stay in their respective towns, and then they will renovate the middle school building for another 4 years. So you're looking at an 8 to 10 year project to renovate. And it would be pure chaos, pure trucking people around. It will not be a good scene for people.
Thank you. And this gentleman has a question.
Yes, Mr. Wood, Bill O'Neill, 45 Elm Park. Is it currently true that the lack of educational space in the high school is requiring students to walk to the middle school for certain classes in the elements, and basically they're exposed to any crazies out there? Is that currently true?
I don't know about the crazies, but yes, they are required. My son goes to the high school, so he is required to leave the high school and go over to the middle school, regardless of the weather, to attend classes because there's not enough room at the high school.
So by having one building, basically two schools in one, middle school and high school, that would eliminate that disruption and that possibility for students to get hurt, get sick, get
Yes.
lost on the way to class. It often
Conveniently
happens.
lost, correct. No, I mean, I was at that high school, and I had to go to the junior high, and I might have got lost once in a while. But yes, it is not a good situation, especially when you live in New England and there's snowstorms and rain and cold rain and stuff. So it would be ideal to have the one building, high school, middle school, where one, they would be built with more room, and then two, if there was a need to go over to the middle school side, that they would be all enclosed.
Yes, Mr. Woods, Brian Canzar, Groveland Commons again. My question is I didn't notice in any of the drawings or any of the video displays, is this building going to be LEED compliant? In other words, will they have photovoltaic cells on the roof, solar, power utilization, things of that nature?
It'll be as state-of-the-art as we can afford. It is not the grandiose of the North Shore. It is a functional school on a budget, but it is going to be exceptionally more efficient. It's going to have better lighting, better ventilation, better heating, solar. Yes, it's going to have more than it has now. Better networking, everything. This was supposed to be like 5 minutes.
I heard from Bill O'Neill, 45 Elm Park. I heard from a very good source on the building committee that this building will be as green and as energy efficient as humanly possible, using the most modern state-of-the-art technology. Is that true?
It is true, yes. It is going to be efficient as possible. You will also see a savings versus the current heating and HVAC system that we have now. So if we're paying $100 per student, say, to heat and cool this existing buildings now, you will see a significant reduction in that rate because it would be more efficient. Not only because of the new ventilation and HVAC systems, but also because of the glazed glass that they use, so it reflects some of the heat in the summertime and keeps the heat in the winter.
Okay, so I think we'll have one more question.
Yeah,
okay?
just one more, I'm sorry.
Here all night. I could eat dinner.
If all three towns approve this construction, when would you expect it to start, and what is the duration of it?
If everything passes, I think the time frame to start construction would be next August, and I believe it would be 3 to 4 years. So I think the time frame that Dr. B talked about was 2023, August 2023 as a start date for the new students, I believe. I lost a year, 2022.
Thank you. Okay, one more.
One more.
Last question.
Yes.
If I understand it correctly, theoretically speaking, the cost to operate one building and a new building at that should theoretically be less than what we currently cost to operate two buildings. And I would think the repair and maintenance line, theoretically, with a brand-new building would be substantially less than what it is now with two almost 60-year-old buildings. So theoretically, I would think, and tell me if I'm wrong, wouldn't that somewhat offset the burden of the new building cost by lowering the operating costs and repair and maintenance line costs that we currently are subjected to now with these old buildings? Would that be a fair statement?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's a newer building, right? So it's going to be more efficient. And yes, the stuff that is in there, they have to actually physically make pieces for it because it's so old. So it's incredibly inefficient. So anything new, just like if you build a new house versus a house that was built in the 1800s, it's going to be more efficient. It's going to be better at using energy. Same thing with the school. The thing with the line item on the maintenance, I would say that it would probably decrease, but I would be hesitant to do that. I would keep it at the same level just so those funds are there. So when something does go wrong in the future, and it will, those funds are already in place as a budgeted item rather than trying to go back to the town and say we need to get more money to fix something. So continuing the maintenance line item at a higher rate, banking that, knowing that something's going to happen in the future and have that to fall back on would be a better plan in my opinion.
Thank you.
I do forward think. One more each, come on.
One thing I want to ask the selectmen to do, every time we have a project,
Your name?
every time we have one of these building projects, it seems that they have different names for it. We used to call it a clerk of the works. We need one, because that's the only way, if something goes wrong down the road, that we can call back the builder and actually get money out of the bond.
So where this is state,
And I know they call it something different
Right.
now, but I hope that the region employs and hires their own clerk of the works. They're not that much money. I think he's already hired. Well, he's calling it something else, and it's got to be the right name.
right, we did
so
have
we
that
can call the
conversation last week
bond.
on it. So
Okay. That's all I'm asking.
as far as the building of the school, it is a state project or state-funded project, so there's a lot of oversight and there's a lot of checks as things are being built, so it has to be built up to certain standards. So there are people looking at it constantly as each milestone is met. So unlike maybe something that was built 25 years ago that was just kind of slapped and added on because we needed more room, wasn't a whole lot of oversight. Where the state's involved now and kicking in money, they have a vested interest in making sure that it's done to their standards, so yes. One
Okay.
more.
Well,
Who's up?
Oh,
That's it?
okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. So I think, yes, so thank you so much, and thank you for that. So there are two other questions on the ballot, and we actually don't have anyone lined up to speak about them. But if someone would like to talk about question 2, whether the town should adopt bylaws to prohibit recreational marijuana establishments from operating in Groveland, you're welcome to speak if anyone has comment. I guess you will. Okay. And then actually, the third question is whether whether the town should have the elected tree warden become an appointed tree warden. And again, the organizers of tonight's event were not able to find anyone to speak to that. But would anyone like to offer anything from the audience? You all just want to go home. Okay. All righty. Well, so then, okay. So many thanks to all the candidates and the audience for joining us this evening, and to Ruth Race and Valerie Osborne for organizing tonight's event, and to Kay Herlihy and Sheila Callahan for serving as timekeepers. Thank you to our local cable access folks, Channel 9, thank you. Groveland's town meeting is Monday, April 29th at 7 p.m. at the Bagnall School, 253 School Street. And the annual town election is Monday, May 6th. Polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., and all precincts vote at Town Hall. This program will be rebroadcast on Cable Channel 9. And if you're interested in more information about the League of Women Voters of Greater Haverhill, you can visit their website at lwv-gh.org. Thank you and good evening.